Today's Merit Moment. Today's going to be our last program for 2021. We've certainly enjoyed creating and sharing this content over the past 6 months and have plans to continue with a variety of topics well throughout next year. We're going to include standard financial planning principles and keeping you all informed of changes in markets, regulation, taxation, estate planning, and fiscal policy, just to name a few. For those of you that haven't met me or had a chance to talk with me yet, I'm JB Howard, owner of Merit Advisors, an independent wealth strategy firm located in Westerville, Ohio, just outside of Columbus. The Merit team spends our days helping clients build wealth, protect wealth, and plan for predictable retirement income. Along the way, we help reduce expenses in the form of unnecessary taxation, interest to institution, and overpaying for college education, among multiple others. In short, we help clients avoid unintended consequences due to not knowing the rules of wealth building in the retirement income game. Today, we're going to be talking about achieving financial peace of mind in 2022. And in order to do that, I'm going to share an analogy that attempts to explain our Merit Money Map, or our M3 planning process. Take a moment, if you would. Imagine with me that you've just returned home from a long walk and you see a friendly but chatty neighbor approaching you. You know this talk's going to take a while and you're tired from your walk. So you grab a stool from your front porch and plant it in front of you. But just before you sit, as you're putting the stool down, you notice there's a leg missing. It must have fallen off when you picked it up. As soon as you let go of it, it falls sideways and drops to the ground. Luckily, you were paying attention and didn't just grab it and sit without realizing something was missing. Now, planning for your financial future is a bit like finding a good place to sit down when you're ready to rest. A three-legged stool offers a nice, secure place to sit down. I use this analogy because it's a great way to explain the balance of a well-thought-out financial plan. If you're missing a leg from your financial plan, the whole thing's going to fall apart and you won't be able to rest. I want to help you make sure every leg is accounted for by the end of 22, so you can find peace and rest as you walk into your future. Now, today, I'm going to be talking about how to secure 3 solutions that make up the stable base for you to rest your retirement planning on. I'll also touch on the 4 main risks you want to protect yourself from in and during retirement. J.R.R. Tolkien was a master storyteller, but he was also an incredibly wise man. Take a look at this quote with me. "It does not do to leave a live dragon out of your calculations if you live near one." Now that may seem silly, but if you really think about it, how many of us leave the dragon out of our calculations? We set the goals for the things we hope to achieve, but there's actually some serious financial factors we have to consider. So, okay, those aren't actually dragons, but they can be pretty dangerous to our retirement plans if we don't consider them, if we leave them out of all of our calculations. The first one is stock market volatility. And stock market volatility is a fancy phrase for losing money to negative market returns or bear markets. When a lot of people look at their retirement plans, they look at the whole portfolio. The majority of each portfolio is going to be tied to the equity or the stock market, meaning that when you lose money, like we did 2001 and 02, 2008, 2009, or even 2020, your whole plan loses money. So when we're approaching retirement, and when I say approaching, I mean 5, 10, 15, or even 20 years out to retirement, we want to minimize that very real risk. Make sure dollars being set aside to eventually produce income is protected from losing money to volatility, meaning a 0% floor or a loss provision. We're going to be talking about that in 3 solutions and how to incorporate those products or strategies here in just a few minutes. The next risk we want to talk about is inflation. You've seen the reports lately. Right now, we're at least 5% inflation. If our government entities are willing to report 5%, then it's probably closer to 8 to 10. I think you'd all recognize that. Typically, we're looking at 2.5%. In that range of 2 to 5%, if you're not accounting for inflation each year, planning for retirement over this 30-year plan you've created, you're losing buying power on an annual basis. The secure 3-legged stool approach incorporates products and strategies that have increasing income. These account for inflation and keep your buying power strong. The next risk is the sequence of returns risk. How dependent are you in your retirement plan on the sequence of returns, have you ever stress tested that? What if you threw a negative sequence of returns in the beginning, the middle, or the end of your plan? How would it affect it? If you want more information about sequence of returns risk, please take a minute to visit our blog at meritadvisorsllc.com and check out the article or our blog titled, Does It Really Matter When I Retire? You'll get a lot out of that. The fourth and final risk you need to keep inside of your calculations is longevity. Longevity means the possibility of outliving your plan. Folks, in 1935, when Social Security was released, the life expectancy for your average American was 61. Fast forward to today, it's 85 for males and 88 for females. In the 3 secure solutions, we're going to be talking about how to never outlive your plan and have some contractual guarantees inside there. This whole plan, this retirement plan that you'll create to last 30 plus years, you'll never be able to outlive it. We've talked about the risk, the volatility, sequence of returns, inflation, and longevity. Now it's time to summarize the 3-legged stool approach. We boiled down the 3-legged stool approach to the first leg or tool, being your lifetime protected income. But what does that really mean? Lifetime protected income means it's a stream of income that you'll never be able to outlive. There are only 3 sources that offer this. The first is Social Security. Now, don't worry if you're already paying taxes and working. If you get a paycheck, you're already paying into Social Security. This is the stream of income given by the government and by government entities. The next section of lifetime protected income is a pension. We're not going to be able to spend too much time on it here, mainly because pensions are offered by only certain and very few employers at this point. It's the benefit from an employer of a stream of income that you'll never be able to outlive, like Social Security, and based on your income. Now, finally, there's annuities, and there's lots of different versions of this. But the annuities we use are a version that give you the flexibility to have access to your assets and act like a Social Security or act like a pension, but they come directly from an insurance carrier, which are heavily regulated and tend to have $1.05 to $1.07 on hand, guaranteeing every dollar. Everyone has access to these vehicles. We implement the vast majority of our plans that require income. We implement our plans with annuities. Not only do they protect your money from stock market volatility, it's money you can't outlive. It isn't exposed to market downturns or sequence of return risk. It incorporates increasing income instead each year. As long as you don't get a 0 in that particular year, which is the worst case, your income's going to increase. Not only do we structure these for inflation, but they can be structured on a joint income basis. Instead of leaving your spouse an account value, a death benefit, or simply what's left in your IRA or 401k, we're leaving him or her an income benefit that he or she can outlive, no matter the value left inside the account. So we've talked about lifetime protected income. Let's get into the tax conversation. So I'm going to ask you another question. When you're looking at your whole portfolio, how much of it is qualified for taxes, pre-tax, or also known as yet to be taxed? Based on what we review and what we see on a daily basis, and over the last 20 years as a financial strategist, I'd say the majority of it is. The majority of our portfolios are 401ks, IRAs, 403bs, 457s, and money also directly in the market. Within these tax deferred accounts, we're not just deferring paying the taxes down the road, we're also deferring the tax calculation, essentially postponing taxes to a later date on what we hope is a larger amount of money. We may not be in the same tax bracket in the future, I think we'd all agree, or tax brackets can be completely different 30 years from now. Simply put, are taxes going up or going down? Or how about, is our government going to have a greater or lesser need for money going forward? What I want to do is take at least a third, and it won't happen overnight, but if over time we can do this, take a third of our portfolio and put it in something that gets me access to tax-free income. That solution can be Roth IRAs for some, depending on your income level. It could be Roth conversions. Certainly been a lot of talk going throughout Congress limiting or canceling that provision. And finally, permanent life insurance, specifically indexed universal life insurance. If, and I say if very specifically, if these are designed correctly for cash value accumulation and tax-free income, they can act like a Roth IRA from a taxation standpoint and not have any limits that are put on Roths. The only limit is the ability to write a check. Not only does it get you access to a stream of income that's completely tax-free, but it gives you that stock market volatility protection. Your principal is always protected. You're also giving your family a benefit. This will give you and your family a tax-free death benefit so that when you're gone, whether it's leading up to or into retirement, you're out of the picture, you've had your mortality event. They have the capital to continue and maintain their lifestyle. Now that we've talked about protected income and we've discussed how to minimize your tax bill in retirement, the last step is very simply investing the surplus. You can see this as peeling off a portion that makes you feel comfortable to put directly into the equity or the stock markets. What we want to do is grow that surplus, swing a little harder for the fences, if you will. So you do get the gains that you want and deserve. You're essentially building a nest egg for any major capital purchases, creating another family bank, so to speak, for yourself in the market so that you can use it for anything you want in retirement. A side note on this topic, there is so many opportunities in the traditional financial world to simply purchase ETFs or mutual funds that are directly correlated to or passively invested in the markets, riding those markets up and down. I think we've all seen over the course of the last several years that things have gotten drastically more complicated in the financial world. And at any given time, it's very obvious that there's different sectors of these markets that are doing well and others are doing quite poorly. And so we implement for all of our clients a tactical equity management process. And what that means is we're using data, we're using technical analysis and fundamental analysis on a daily basis to make sure our clients are in the correct equity assets, the correct sector, move towards growth, move away from volatility, even to the extent that we need to make the call to not be in the market at all. I feel like that is a much more current, up-to-date way of being involved in the market compared to passively following the overall markets. I think a lot of people have been let down by that, especially considering over the last 20 years, even including an 11-year bull market, the average S&P 500 rate of return is running at a little over 6%. The minute you include expenses, the minute you include things like inflation and taxation, all of a sudden that 6 nets down to something pretty small. So let's recap our three-legged stool strategy. We've talked about lifetime protected income. We've talked about minimizing our taxes. We've talked about investing our surplus, dollars essentially that aren't required to provide our income stream. And we've protected ourselves from the 4 main risks in retirement with that. That, my friends, is how you find financial peace of mind. Your future secure and your retirement income is guaranteed.